Oh, we should. Oh, is everybody else going to be online? Is
Mary is online and Molly had a last minute family.
oh no.
I think that who will be online.
Yes, I texted her.
This is weird. I haven't been to that many meetings, but I always sit on these sides.
So, can you remind me of your name?
Amy,
Amy.
I was gonna ask you the same, so.
Okay.
Chris, nice to, yes, to be reminded.
Reacquainted. Because I never got to see you because we were
Yes. And here
on
we
the
are
same
again.
table. Yeah.
What time do we have?
Hello.
Oh, so we're already running late even. Hadn't realized.
You're gonna like this popcorn. It's really buttery.
Okay,
Now
I
the
think we do have a quorum though.
We do. We do.
this for you,
Oh,
Jill.
you're good. I need to wait. All right, so welcome everyone. And again, thank you for Tina for having some technical issues with my laptop is going to be borrowing her computer for today. Welcome everyone to the final Sustainability Commission of the year 2023. It's really nice to have you all here. I think we are expecting one or two more, but we do have a quorum, so we are set to proceed. So first item on the agenda is the roll call. So commissioners online, please unmute yourselves. And when I call your name, go ahead and say aye or here. Chair Kevin White here. Commissioner Priscilla Boateng. I don't see Priscilla online or in person.
She just texted she can't make it.
Okay, thank you for letting me know.
Yeah.
Commissioner Kristen Conkle.
Here.
Commissioner Molly McCormick. We believe unfortunately Commissioner McCormick also unable to be here tonight. Commissioner Mary Ellen Metzger.
Here.
Thank you, Commissioner Metzger.
Here.
Commissioner.
Did you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Metzger.
Gotcha.
Commissioner Quarshie. I don't see Commissioner Quarshie either. And Commissioner Walkowinski.
Here.
All right, thank you very much. All right. Yes, and just again, thank you all for being here. I highly value your time and your experience, your knowledge, and your skills. Next up is the land acknowledgement. The Sustainability Commission humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place is home. All right, next up is public comment. At this time, any member of the public may address the commission on any subject within their jurisdiction that is not scheduled for the commission on that day. Due to open meeting laws, the commission cannot discuss or act on items presented during this portion of the agenda. To address the commission on an item that is on the agenda, please use the Teams chat function. If you're online, simply type in public comment to indicate to the chair that you'd like to comment. If you're in person, then just please raise your hand and I'll do likewise. The chair will recognize you when it is time for public comment and the staff will unmute your microphone if needed. So do we have any public comment online or in person at this time?
Would this be a good time for me to ask my earlier question, as a member of the public?
I think that will be, I think that'll have to be something that, I think that'll fit under, better under future agenda items. If that's okay with you.
Whatever you think.
Thank you, Commissioner Wolkowski. And because of what meeting laws, we won't be able to get to that today, but,
Okay.
but you can put it on the agenda, but we can put it as, we might be able to put it on an agenda item for next session.
Well,
We can also talk about it during to and from.
Okay, I think we should talk about it tonight because the question I have is regarding something taking place on December 12th.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And, Nicole, do you have any, I know that, well, we talked about this a little bit before you came in, but do you have any procedural, like our commissioners allowed to bring stuff up during public comment?
Well, we have to and from,
Yeah,
so we can use it.
Okay.
Yeah, to and from would be the. Because when it is public comment, the commission's actually not able to speak to it.
Oh, that's right.
So to and from there can be.
thank you.
I know you'll all be on the edge of your seats.
All right, any other public comment? Seeing, seeing that, we will move on. So, did, next item up is the approval of minutes. Did anybody have a chance to look over, last month's minutes?
Got to attach them as well. I can
Okay.
pull them up.
Okay.
We can always move the adoption of last month's minute to the next meeting too.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah. I feel like we have a lot of things to talk about.
Yeah, can, we make a motion to move the approval of the the approval of, I believe it would be the October minutes, or it would be the November, yeah, the October minutes to our next commission meeting.
I'll motion.
Okay, we have a.
I second.
We have a
I'll
second.
second.
We have a second from Commissioner Metzger. Thank you both. Is there any discussion on the current item on the table? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of the motion to table the approval of last month's minutes till next month, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no. All right, the motion passes. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so next up is vice chair elections, and we've been punting on this for a few months now, but we're kind of out of time to keep punting. We do, as some of you know, I may not, it's likely that this will be my last sustainability commission meeting. I know,
Really?
which, yeah.
We just got you as the chair.
I know, I was really enjoying being chair too. I really wish I could do it for another year.
Yeah.
But, such is the law regarding.
Terms, yeah,
Regarding commission terms.
Commissioner White has turned out.
Yeah.
Really? Been with us that long.
Thank you.
Yeah, which is amazing.
It's, I'm going to miss it. I appreciate you all, but, and, you know, whoever is vice chair, if they want a hand for me here and there, then I'm happy to help with that. That said, there is a good chance that whoever is elected as vice chair will have to step in as acting chair, at least for the month of January. And then, an election of the new chair will have to be an agenda item, probably in January.
Yeah.
Um,
And may I speak to that process just very
course.
quickly, because I don't, I think we have some applications on file, but the city clerk's office will not bring forward appointments for the city council to consider unless there are more than enough applications on file to fill the seats. So we are going to be focusing on the new calendar year in January, February timeframe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My understanding from Tia was that they did have enough new applications on file to appoint a new commissioner to my place. If they don't, then I probably will stay on, but I'm assuming that they will.
And they'll just have to check in and make sure the applicants are still interested. Yes, that's like the one thing is some of those applications can be from 7 months ago.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'll stay on for as long as I'm needed, but you know, there is a good chance that they'll be appointing somebody to take over for me before then. And that'll be nice for them because this is a wonderful experience and it's good to share the wealth, so to speak. That said, whoever is vice chair should, be prepared to take over for at least 1 month, to take over as chair for at least 1 month. The process is pretty straightforward. Nicole and the main things are basically just running the meetings. You've seen how that basically has gotten the last few months. It's pretty straightforward. And the other thing is choosing the agenda for the month. And Nicole and Tia usually have plenty of things to bring forward. Sometimes you can sneak your own priorities in as well. No, this was a good thing. This is a good thing, not a bad thing. Oh, thank you.
Just kidding.
But, anyway, do we have any nominations for vice chair?
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Did somebody want to be vice chair? That expressed interest?
One person had expressed interest.
Who is that person?
I had said, I assumed that a lot of current commissioners would be really interested in that role. And I had said I would be willing to do it if nobody else wanted to. But then it turns out that I don't know if anybody else has expressed interest. So I feel rather new to this scene. But if nobody else is interested, then I suppose my initial offer stands.
Okay.
Can I have a second question? With now also having to elect a chair, is it coming from the same pool of people or potentially could a new commissioner come in as chair?
In theory, yeah.
Yeah, in theory, a new commissioner could come in as chair. Don't know if it'd be fair to ask that of them, but there's nothing as far as I know, there's nothing in the rules against it.
Great, then I nominate Commissioner Wolkowinski.
Okay, I second I don't know if I.
I'm interested.
I don't have the bandwidth to do
Yeah.
more than what I do.
I
Excellent.
don't think that I don't think that the nomination needs a second, but I'll second it anyway.
Okay.
Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing no, and for what it's worth, I haven't, nobody else has expressed interest in the position for me, so, and I do want to express my gratitude for both your willingness to do it and definitely so for your willingness to step in and do this, given your newness in the position. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But given if there's no other nominations, then we can do this by acclamation.
She has to like say yes though, right?
Okay.
It's not just like by vote and then
Oh.
she's like forced into it. She has to be like, yes, I accept the nomination.
Yes, I accept the nomination.
Okay,
I wasn't trained as strong.
Okay, you're correct. I was mentally doing that out of order. Thank you. All right, so, Commissioner Wolkowinski, having accepted that nomination, we can, if there are no other nominations, then we can do this by acclamation. All in favor of electing Commissioner Wolkowinski as our commission's new vice chair, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All opposed, please say no. No? Or sorry, I didn't mean to say no.
No one is about.
Yeah, when I said, I hear no no's is what I was going to say. So that being done, Commissioner Amy Wolkowinski is our new vice chair. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I will attempt to fill Commissioner White's big shoes.
Well, it's, again, your willingness to help with this is greatly appreciated. All right. Next up is what we have on the bulk of the meeting is scheduled to be devoted to, and this could take half an hour or it could make us go overtime. We'll just see how it goes, but we gotta figure out who to give neighborhood sustainability grants to, and this is both the hardest and most fun part of this work as far as I'm concerned. So. I think you can let me use this.
Yeah. We could also put them side by side.
Really, you're not gonna let me open a new tab? Okay.
I might just automatically open a tab actually when you double click on it.
Oh, so it does, okay.
Yep.
And I think we can switch editors too.
Oh, yeah.
Just make sure we gotta do that.
Does anyone remember this one? Swap screens.
There we go.
Okay.
I think that makes it a little easier to see.
Mhm.
Can you make it a teeny bit bigger?
Yes, and I'll kind of focus in on the average scores.
And I just copied a page, so I didn't like make changes in your page with,
Oh, I see.
and I sorted it by score.
Okay, it's also in the other one, but it works better than if it's the same one, right?
I'll let you make that, sorry.
Um,
Look on the page, on the tab at the bottom, just the KK
No, I
tab.
see that, yeah.
Yeah.
So, oh, the other ones are also like, the application ranking is over here, but
Mm-hmm.
Fine.
But if we're gonna,
exactly,
Yeah.
you need it to be in the same spreadsheet.
So,
Trying to make.
Can you admit it? Aku?
Yes.
Thank you.
well, welcome, Aku.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Joining. Oh, is that too small or?
no, I think that's great.
Too big, I mean.
It's easy to see. Good.
Okay. So there's a few notes that I just wanted to make about this, and then we'll sort of proceed with the plan. One is, and we'll get to this, but I just wanted to mention it so that so that it's in the back of everyone's brains as we're thinking things through. We have, as fate would have it, the three, so after, so we have enough funds to fully fund, I believe it's, what, 14 projects as things stand, which is great. Oh, 12? Okay, I was just basing it off of this number, but yeah, I think you're right.
I think it
This
might be
is
13 or
up a little
14,
bit.
depending on.
Here, let me open up this other.
Yeah.
So here's kind of like. So as it stands, top 10 applications, 57, so it's top 12 as
Yeah,
it stands.
thank
it'd
you.
be. And also I should know, as it stands, number 12 is not one that's tied. It's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just too much.
Yeah, no, that was no, that's good, and that's exactly what I was gonna be mentioning.
Okay. Yeah.
Is, yeah, so we can fully fund up to 12 projects, as fate would have it, number 13 is tied, in terms of score. So I figure we can, handle that a couple different ways. We can offer to split the remaining funds 3 ways, or we can, amongst ourselves, pick a winner.
Do we want to discuss
Yes,
projects?
we will. I just wanted to get that out of mention that first so that
Okay.
people are thinking about it as we discuss the projects. And it could be that as we discuss the projects, the scores will change a little bit, and that becomes less of an issue.
I'm sorry, I have a quick question about
course.
what Tia just said about number 12 not being tied. It looks like 10, 11, and 12 all have the same score.
It's not tied with the next one down.
Oh, okay.
And that begins the ones that are
Yeah.
listed right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Thank you, Commissioner Weinstein. Any other questions before a couple other things I wanted to mention? All right, one other thing I did want to mention is that there are a few scoring discrepancies, and that is completely fine. If we have different opinions on things, that is completely okay. What was encouraging, I mean, what makes things easier for me in this case is I was looking through the scoring discrepancy. I was looking through the projects that did have a bit of a scoring discrepancy, And it looks like most of those projects are either well over or well under the cutoff. If we had a project that was near the cutoff that had big scoring discrepancies, that would, well, worry is the wrong word, but it would maybe warrant it would make me more want to, discuss it. But, it looks like to me, all the projects that have significant scoring discrepancies are either, pretty far above or pretty far below the cutoff. With one
And
possible, go ahead.
I'm sorry to disturb, but I don't see a sign on my screen where I can raise my hand and be acknowledged. I apologize. Oh, I see it.
That's okay.
I apologize.
Just,
So I have,
you're one of us, so just speaking
Okay.
out is perfectly fine.
so if I may, I'd like to make the point that I, in error, scored 3 extra areas. So if one of them is reflected in these ties and you'd want to take my score out and re-average it, I would certainly be happy to do that. I frankly can't remember which ones there were that I wasn't supposed to score. But so what happened was there are a few of these that got more scores than others, and that might have affected their general outcome. That's what I'm concerned about. Does that make sense?
Go ahead, yeah. Yeah,
Mary, you didn't, or Commissioner Metzger, you didn't end up being the only one to score extra ones. There was definitely, yeah, there was various levels of confusion to also like, mistakes on the like my end and the spreadsheets end in terms of like what was randomized. And then also in the process of like getting the right amount scored, like even a couple days ago, like I had to reach out to Molly McCormick and ask her to score one more because I realized there was one missing. And yeah, so
Okay.
just, yeah, I think it's still
Well,
pretty
my-
random,
yeah, my-
but yeah.
My point being that there were some that only got 3 scores and that might have minimized their outcome, where others got 4 scores accidentally and got a better scoring because of that. That's what I'm thinking in terms of the math.
In principle, unless one of the commissioners is like consistently scoring projects much higher than the other ones, we're working off of mean averages.
Okay.
So the presence of a fourth scorer should not by itself give any project a higher or lower score, at least not outside of the biases and opinions of whoever the fourth commissioner's score it was. Assuming that all commissioners are scoring like roughly along the same lines, that shouldn't really affect the average too much, if that makes sense.
Okay. Thank you. I just thought maybe that would help in some ways in terms of breaking a tie.
Well, we appreciate the offer. I don't think that'll, but yeah, I don't think that'll be necessary, for right now. All right.
And I can't see my score for the Sago Lily Energy one, which was 20. I gave it a rather high score, and I guess other people scored it lower. And I can't see it on this screen. I apologize.
Yeah, but, and that's one of the ones I was talking about, in cases where most of the cases where there were large discrepancies between the different,
Okay.
most of the cases where there were large discrepancies between the different commissioners' scores, those are not projects that are near the cutoff for being
Okay.
awarded.
Okay.
That's one of
And
them,
they
like,
can just throw out the extremely high one and just keep the middle. I get it. Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. So can I jump in real fast?
of course.
Yeah, keep going.
Food in your mouth. So I went through and marked the ones that had a range of higher than 10 in the low category and highlighted who the low scorer was. And so like even kind of considering if we look at what the scores are for the other commissioners and we're like, oh, this person scored abnormally low compared to the other commissioners, I don't think any of those projects would bump up high enough to get funded.
Yeah,
So I don't know if we have to worry about talking about the ones with those big discrepancies, because even if, like, let's say, Mary, even if you bumped this score up to 20, like that project
Yeah.
wouldn't be still to get funded anyway.
yeah.
Okay.
Or not the one, like the average score is still lower than our cutoff point.
So that said, there is one that's near the cutoff with a nearly 9-point spread. And that's the Flagstaff High School courtyard one. That wasn't one of the ones that I scored, so I'm not intimately familiar with that project. I guess I should have read through them all, but, Commissioner McCormick isn't here, but, Commissioners Conkle or Metzger, do either of you want to, speak to your opinions on that particular project?
Oh, I would be happy, to speak to that one.
Mhm.
I felt like it was, anywhere we can educate young people to, the environmental, uh, needs of the future and also for healthy eating and healthy growing food. Flagstaff High School is a school that has a broad variety of kids from various socioeconomic, not necessarily the higher socioeconomic, which the junior high school one does. So that I felt like it would be a good one to give support to. That's one of the reasons I rated it fairly high, as I recall, and did not rate the mindfulness one very high. So
Commissioner Conkle, do you have any?
Yeah, I'm just pulling up my score
Course.
breakdown.
And I could also possibly pull in Molly's comments. Molly
Sure.
did have, comments on the side about her scores, so.
Oh, okay, so I knocked them down on their budget. And the overall conformity with category objectives. So like to get the highest score on the category objectives for food, you had to do all three things, and they weren't not clear that they were doing all three things. I thought they had a really good rationale. I gave them a pretty high score on innovation and longevity. But really just like the matchup with the overall goals and objectives for the NSG, I didn't think was a super great fit.
Can you expound on that point?
I will have to pull up their application. Let me just do that, yeah. Let me.
That's the Flagstaff High School courtyard garden project.
Yeah.
Number
what number is that? 30. So.
Our budget is 75,000, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looking at the math, the top 12 applications, like you've got here, Tia, 71,000 and change. And then when we add in the 13th, we're over budget.
Right, so we would, so the 13th would, we would offer to, so our options are take the remaining money and split it among those three, or pick our favorite among those three,
And give them the remaining
give
amount.
them the remaining
No,
amount of
yes.
that. So we wouldn't be able, we won't be able to fully fund the 13th project in, at least unless like we shuffle these around, at least unless some shuffling is done. But we can offer to partially fund it.
Or what would that decision be like, because they're all tied and only one of these actually
Well,
fits the remaining funding?
we're gonna have to vote.
Okay.
I don't think the 4,800 one fits either.
Oh, it doesn't even fit. Okay.
Yeah.
And I do have Molly's comments, whatever.
So their category was food. And so in order for you to meet the food objectives, you have to promote through education. Great, they do that. Increase food recovery efforts. I don't think that was in their proposal. And increase pollinator habitat, and that also was not in their proposal. And so they really only met that one project objective. Also, they definitely, in terms of the overall community, the overarching goals, involving underserved communities, great. Volunteer engagement or management, I could see like students as the volunteers, like, sure. So that one, I just didn't give them the full 5 points because they didn't really expand on all three of those things. But definitely for the project objectives by category, I don't think they meet all of those objectives. So
Well, and
that's,
if If I
And-
may point out, I frankly scored the mindfulness one low because part of the money is supposed to go to scholarships for people to participate. They're going to charge people to participate in this counseling program. And then they're going to make videos of the counseling program and ostensibly sell them and rent them out. So I would struggle with supporting them financially so they could pay for someone else to be the part of the 7,500 is supposed to go to a scholarship to people being participating in the group. And yet with the $4,800 for the Flagstaff High School, theirs was going to go to substantially educating young people by utilizing it for informational and instructional strategies. So that's where
Okay.
my kind of like thinking was perhaps one group needed it more than the other. I think there's a need issue there.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Metzger. If possible, I would like to focus on one grant application now, and we can,
Well, but I thought we were kind of looking
We
at
can
the
compare
three of
them.
them and what we
yeah,
do
we'll,
about
we'll
the
go,
three.
we'll proceed to comparing them in a minute.
Would you like me to share Molly's?
Yes, please.
Comments at least?
Thank you.
Um, Commissioner McCormick said, mostly straightforward notes about what the project was, just to like remind herself really actually. This project is for installing signs and bulletin boards at gardens and outdoor classrooms. Signs will improve communication between students and across years. Bulletin boards can be used to list activities people can do while in the gardens. And I don't know if you will, because someone else isn't necessarily, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
want to assume that she's okay, like, you sure.
No.
Individual, so.
I read like a couple projects about installing signs. And it just doesn't seem that exciting to me for like giving neighborhood sustainability grants compared to some of the other projects, which I thought felt really meaningful and innovative, like sign installation to me just doesn't feel like that. I get the like educating the youth.
And which,
But-
which is that you're referring to?
Still talking about the Flagstaff High.
Okay.
Like there were just like a couple, like we want to put in signs. And I'm like, is that the purpose
Is that
of our
the name
neighborhood
of the
sustainability?
project? I didn't review that one.
Oh.
so.
Yeah, I mean, the whole project was like sign installation.
Okay.
So like, to me, I'm just like, that doesn't feel as much of like a big of an impact as some of the other projects in the list.
If it's helpful at all, I did notice Molly did give fives for the overarching goals, category objectives, and rationale.
I mean, they're definitely not increasing pollinator habitat with those signs. So nobody should have given a 5 on that one.
Yeah, if this is just, I don't know, mental note for next year, if I had to do the, if I were able to do the, if I were able to do the grant process over again, I think the first thing that I would want to actually change is to change that one particular goal under the food category.
The pollinator habitat.
Yeah. But, excuse me. It's neither here nor there though.
Mhm.
I would also ask commissioners to, consider, if we consider sort of setting aside the score values, and just sort of thinking, okay, just, which projects do we want to fund? With this particular project, does that change anybody's minds? Or does anybody?
Now, like, if I were to adjust my individual score, I'd have to go up by at least, let me just do the math. Oh, it doesn't automatically update the average score?
No, sorry,
That's okay.
when I uploaded the Excel sheets, it didn't bring over the things.
If you just let us know, we can do the, if you just tell us the number, we can do the math.
I do, Molly.
So I'd have to update my score by by 4 full points in order to even get it tied with the ones that are above the cutoff, which I don't think I'm going to update my score by 4 full points.
So, we're not, we're not necessarily just looking to, decide like, well, we are looking to decide if, you know, if any of these will go above the cutoff.
Right.
But we are also looking to, you know, is there one, of the group below the cutoff, is there one that's worth getting those, is there one that we wanna favor for getting those partial funds potentially?
Mhm.
And, you know, you don't, but you don't have to change, you don't have to change your score at all. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, you know, if we set, if we did set like the specific, the rubric is important, but if we set the rubric aside and just sort of think, okay, which projects do we think are the most worth being funded? Do any of you think
Yeah.
that, that the, Flagstaff High Courtyard Gardens Interpretive Science, does that, where does that compare to the others?
I mean, I personally liked the other two more. I think they are more innovative and I think they're more exciting. I'd like to hear more of Mary's concerns about, and like the whole commission's concerns about the mindfulness project with it being kind of into a for-profit situation. So while I like that project a lot, I can see where those concerns are. I think that the Bushmaster Community Park fruit orchard sounds like a greater neighborhood sustainability impact with like just like the ability to share food and grow food publicly and have people involved. I think that sounds really great. And I know they've done a lot of work to get funding from other places as well. So while I am comfortable raising my score on the Flagstaff High project, I'm not comfortable raising it above so that the Bushmaster Park project doesn't get funded, if that makes sense.
It does, and that's the crux of what I was asking, so
Mhm.
thank you. Same question to the other commissioners. Does anybody have any thoughts as far as that goes?
If we're just focusing on this one proposal, I don't have anything to add, except that I do agree with Commissioner Conkle that the Bushmaster Park proposal is, I think, farther reaching, more impactful than what this sounds like.
Thank you. Commissioner Mesker, do you have any thoughts at the moment? Okay.
And maybe my solution could be that I raise both of those scores, because one of the concerns I had with the Bushmaster Park score was it kind of relied on getting other funding, and they came back with some information that they had the pros approval and that they were like in the next stage of getting funding from another source. So that was one of the reasons I gave that one a lower score. Like I'm the low score on both of those projects, so
Okay.
I feel comfortable raising the score to be closer together for both.
I'm sorry I didn't answer earlier because I had fallen off the screen, but now I'm back on the screen. And if I had
Cool.
to make a choice, if I had to make a choice between the three, I prefer the Bushmaster Park one as well. I mean, it might make sense just go for that one as opposed to trying to raise the score on one or lower the score on another. I agree. I think growing fruit and making it a part of a community access to healthy food is a really good plan. So I like that one too.
That's, honestly, I wasn't gonna say anything until other people had spoken, but that one is my choice among those three as well. That said, I do want to still discuss the others. Does anybody have, anything to, speak about in favor of the mind? And this wasn't one of mine, so I don't know it well either, but does anybody have anything to, speak about the mindfulness-based ecotherapy group sessions?
I could make comments that would not be positive, but I don't think it's necessary for me to do that. I've already made my comments.
Okay, and you know, again, this, you know, both pros and cons of each project, especially the ones near the cutoff, are relevant to what we're doing.
Because I do kind of want to know, is there guidance from the city of Flagstaff on awarding funds that ultimately like help serve a for-profit type of thing? Like,
So as a business, they can apply.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did speak with them. Actually, we had a couple questions come in about their first iteration of their budget. And so I actually wanted to pull up their
Mhm.
Q&A, because it seemed like the way, it was like going towards half of it was like about going towards staff time or basically it felt like they were over the 50% threshold with the scholarships plus staff time in their first iteration of the budget. And so they did, come back and adjust their budget. And they also, Commissioner Metzger, I know they also came back and answered a question of yours about the purpose of the video. They definitely, helped elaborate a little bit better.
Thank you.
Okay,
With a scholarship, basically they're saying we're gonna pay ourselves instead of the client paying us.
Yeah.
With the
Yes.
funds.
But they also did not, they took out the money for, like, straight towards them in
Got
the
it.
budget.
Got it.
Yeah.
Do you mean they took out the scholarship money?
No, so they had scholarship money originally and funding towards, staff time. So they took out the staff time and left the scholarship.
Okay.
it was still interesting to me because of I mean, we all have our personal backgrounds. My master's is in counseling, and this notion of a counseling program, they're charging $1,000 for people to raise their awareness and to help them work through the concerns we all have about the environment was what I considered one of the strongest programs for public health, but that was just my opinion. So there we have that.
I thought it was really interesting because like climate anxiety is a real thing that's getting a lot of attention right now. And there's not a lot of places that have a focus on trying to address it. So like, I think it's pretty innovative and could end up being really important. Like when we look at Gen Z, like their number one concern right now is climate. And climate anxiety is like a huge thing that I see in my
Well,
students.
that's true. That's true. That's absolutely a concern. But there was not much in there about a therapeutic model. It was, we're going to have mindfulness about it and discuss it and create counseling models, but there wasn't any specifics about how they were going to truly address it.
Mhm.
I mean, recognize absolutely, it's something we're all facing. We do it daily, but if you're going to be providing them, if you're going to charge people $1,000 to help them become mindful and deal with that stress, I would expect a little bit more of a counseling model or some kind of a structure that would give you some substance about what that was going to look like. That
And
was my
was the
comment.
video series not then like available to the public? I don't
Yes, they're going to
remember.
make a video from the therapy, but they still didn't tell us what the therapy was.
Yeah,
Just
and
basically talking about our fears that the world is coming to an end.
Yeah, this is.
and for what it's worth, I didn't read that. That wasn't one of the ones that I scored. I didn't read that project in detail, but based on what Commissioner Metzger is saying, if they're intending to charge that much for these sessions, then that does I don't think that doesn't really conform with our goals of equity and funding and basically funding projects that serve that serve diverse groups, in my opinion at least.
Seems like maybe it's not really clear if they're planning on charging for the videos, because it does say the video series based on the group curriculum will be adapted and created to increase awareness and access for the content for those with limited access to the in-person group. That doesn't mean necessarily that.
It sounds like they're developing a video from the program that they're forming. They're going to do mindfulness and have counseling and develop a video from that, but there was no substantive structure about what that model would be for the therapy. They're just going to,
Yeah.
is it like, they just sit around and talk about how we're all concerned that the world is going to fall apart, or what exactly was that going to look like? They don't have much relative to the substance of the counseling model. That's what I was concerned about.
I heard one question. I just want to make sure things are clarified because we did ask questions and get responses back. So, yeah, it just says, they don't have plans to rent or sell the video. Then they have plans to distribute it. Another applicant followed up and said our intention would be to make the video available publicly as an accessible resource / service through our website and company YouTube page. So yeah.
Yeah.
Just wanting to clarify.
Thank you, Tina. That's a big help. My impression from that is that the video would be for free.
Yeah,
That said, I don't know, my attitude toward videos is that my attitude toward like applicants who want to make YouTube videos is that it's a pretty high bar to clear because there's so much stuff available online already that, they really, in my opinion, they really have to have a high bar of justifying that they're adding something that's not already available for people to see.
well, I think we all like
And
the
my-
business. And there's some contention about the other projects, so I would say, let's prioritize the Bushmaster project.
All right, so speaking of which.
Sounds good to me.
I do want to, I do agree, but I do want to give each, I do want to take the time to at least talk about each projects and see what people's thoughts about them are. And then, so now we've talked about the other two that are just, that are in that spot. Does anybody have any thoughts about the Bushmaster, that they'd like to share about the Bushmaster Park Community Fruit Orchard project?
I really hope it works out. Like, I think it'd be really great.
Yeah, it was one of the projects that I scored on the high side. And the only reason I didn't score it higher was because it sounded like there needed to be a lot of permitting and permissions and, collaboration with the city. And I just, one of my comments was, I'd like to see that this stuff is in order and happening before we fund anything. And that was addressed in the Q&A
Yeah.
with the
Yes,
group.
what those
They
are.
have, they also have like a lot of really great community connections established already.
Have they spoken with city?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I
Yeah,
just want to make sure.
they're well in conversations
Yes,
with
With
pros.
pros and
Perfect.
beautification, they
Mhm.
actually have a letter of support and received a patient action grant contingent on sustainable funding.
And another one of my concerns was like the dead fruit and, when trees are not completely harvested, it's quite a mess. And then that creates a nuisance with insects and ants, and et cetera. And they also, in the Q&A, said that that's part of their plan is using volunteers to clean it up after every growing season. And so I think it sounds wonderful. And I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of opportunity for like all residents of Flagstaff, across all socioeconomic backgrounds to access it, enjoy it.
Mhm.
I'd like to go. It sounds cool. I'll volunteer.
So, so everyone feel,
Takes a while for the fruit to grow that well, though, to grow that much fruit.
you feel free to say no, but is among the, at this point, there is going to be we will be doing further discussion, but just at this point, among those three projects that are just below the cutoff, is the consensus that we would like to award the partial funding to the Bushmaster Park Community Fruit Garden.
Should we make a move? Do you want us to make a motion?
We talk about it a little bit more? 'Cause,
Yes.
I didn't have a ton of time to reread the proposals with the updated information. And I had initially knocked them down a little bit on their conformity with the goals, and I'm wondering if those who scored the project, so white.
I gave them a 4 for conformity with the overarching goals.
And how about the category goals?
The category goals, I gave them
5.
5.
Okay.
I have not reviewed the application since I scored it, but I made a note that I thought they were clearly identified.
Okay.
And that's something that I was pretty meticulous about as I was going through these, because that's how some of them ended up with zeros.
And white is not here.
White is here. I'm
Oh,
white.
sorry. What's
That's
going on with my
okay.
brain? Yeah. Do you remember, or do you have it up to say how you scored their?
My computer's
conformity?
broken, so no.
I'm pulling it up for him.
Thank you.
So we have to go
Thank you,
through
Gia.
everything.
Let me, it might actually be, is it here?
No, I didn't.
Like, do they have an education piece where, for their overall goals? promoting through education. Or sorry, for their category goals. I think I'm actually, okay, I think I'm gonna bump them up more. Hope this doesn't cause a problem.
I think they did.
I think they did
I'll
too.
review it, but.
All right.
Here.
So I think I'm gonna bump them up
Second to last for both years.
to a 29.
Second to
So
last.
maybe even a 30, because I gave them a 3 and a 3 on the 2.
I give them strong scores there.
I gave them a 5 and a 4.
That's what it is, yeah.
And I think I'm gonna change mine to a 30.
Yeah.
Which puts them up into the funding, not the cutoff.
Okay. Cool.
They're now in the woohoo level. Good job.
Does that?
But now I feel like I messed up all of our ties.
Does that put them, does that put them above the, Flagstaff Shelter Services,
Mhm.
the others?
Mhm.
That is okay. That's why we're,
Okay, just got updated.
that's part of why we're doing this.
Okay, so let me change the color now, or do we want to keep the color that I had indicating it was below the line at first?
We can just keep the color.
Yeah, let's keep going. Okay, so let's see.
You know, when you have like major
Like,
concerns and it clouds your judgment about things. Like, I think I was so concerned about like not
absolutely.
having the information that they actually had permission to do it.
I mean, that's
I-
fair.
Well, I didn't review these and that was my initial like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Well, and they didn't, when they submitted it, they didn't have.
It wasn't
all that.
clear in
Yeah.
their proposal that,
Yeah, and we can't
Yeah.
be.
right.
So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. So now,
Are you doing the math to where the cutoff is now?
oh, thank you.
That depends on the funding.
Yeah. Almost, if I'm doing my mental math right, that still means that we have to choose between, Flagstaff Shelter Services, Flagstaff Junior Academy, and Healthy Soils and Thriving Garden.
So right now, if we fund all of the projects through Healthy Soils and Thriving Garden, it's 78,000 instead of 75,000.
Yeah.
So we can fund all 3 of them, but not completely. If that makes sense. So we would either have to choose, like, everyone gets $1,000 less. Or one project that ranks the lowest gets just partial funding,
Yeah, so,
but they're all tied.
No,
Maybe we should talk about.
yeah,
the
let's,
fund.
same process for these ones next.
Well, and what commissioners have done in the past too is looked at the budget and
Mhm.
made I mean, if you want to dive into it and make recommendations.
That's a good idea.
There was one thing I remember off the top of my head is that there was a huge amount budgeted in FJA's project for rain barrels. And it was one of the things, I mean, I loved the proposal and I gave him a high score overall, but it was one of the things that I marked him down on because it didn't make sense to me.
Interesting. When we were sending these out, actually Water Services reached out to me and said, if anyone's applying for rain barrels, please send them our way. So.
They have, so they have to be cleaned and processed. And then, but they're free.
But
outside
outside the
of time.
budget.
Yeah,
So
maybe
maybe,
we
do you want to
just
put it on
Say
screen?
instead of money, we'll give you rain barrels.
Yeah.
And then,
Mhm.
Or even they could buy a smaller one and then supplement with the free ones.
Yeah.
You should know.
Thank you for this, Tia, by the way, too.
Gosh, it was earlier today.
It's good, because then you have like a little, like a nervous habit, you know? Not like playing with newspaper.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, rain barrels, $2,200.
There we go. Pretty nice budget.
Beautiful budget. I was just like, what?
So, so if they were willing to, if they were willing to take the rain barrels out of their budget,
Cool.
or source them from another place, then that would still leave us roughly $1,000 short of them doing my mental math for you.
1,472.
Nicole, do you know at that price of like 2,200 for two of them at like one at each at a like $1,100, what size of rain barrel that might?
I'm thinking that's probably around 700, 650 gallons. Hold on, let me just do a quick search online.
Yeah. Awesome.
While she's doing that, would you,
I'm pricing that on my own that I have, so.
let's bring up the, if you could, let's bring up the budgets for the other two that are on the border right now.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me about this option, Nicole.
Absolutely, and
Or us, rather.
I think, it's not an ideal situation to be in by any means, of course, but we have had to do this in the past. But it also, in diving into budgets, sometimes it does lend itself to helping tighten up.
Yeah.
And think outside the box. So,
And gives the opportunity for more projects to get funding.
Yeah.
thinking, yeah.
All right. This is the restoration soils project. This was their budget. I know we did confirm and kind of ask them like. This for truck? Yeah.
Yeah, this is one I mean, and, they could always, if we just told them that we could give them it's just this, but $700 less, I'm sure they'd figure it out, but I also don't see anything here that's like clearly easy, like super easy to cut. What do you all think?
This is for the,
I'm not happy they gave so little in terms of the budget. Hard to figure out. I don't think so. It's right in gardens. This was when I read.
100-gallon tanks are around 800
Okay.
to 1,000. So I think they had two 500-gallon tanks.
is that the same size tank that would be available?
So water services
Oh,
will
it's-
have 50
Got it.
gallons.
That would be a significant change to their plan.
Okay, so that's fine.
Okay.
We have the 50-gallon ones that are. Yeah.
Where is the Healthy Soils going to be taking place? I didn't read their grant.
Killip Elementary School, I believe.
So it's on the Killip Elementary School campus?
That's my understanding.
Did they get a grant last year?
Um,
Well, restoration soils is the applicant.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
a different applicant got a grant last year that also involved Killip Elementary.
So we've
And,
never funded composting at Killip?
not specifically. I think last year was, I think the grant last year was for gardening tools.
Okay.
So this is like for a different thing, and it is a different like, it is like a different group, applying. Again, if we want to say that like no particular school can, if we want to say that no particular school can receive funding 2 years in a row, then that's something we can go back to, but I'm not really inclined to draw that line in the sand here and now.
I think that Killip was just one of the schools they were working closely with, one of the locations of several they were working closely with.
Okay.
The composting is actually going to take place at Restoration Soils. And they're distributing the compost to Killip,
Okay.
Killip School Garden, among other community gardens that they're coordinating with Terra Birds.
That makes sense. Thank you.
I reviewed this one as well.
Yeah.
And one of my concerns when I looked at this proposal was, I actually had the question of, are we funding for-profit businesses? And so I had to go back to the eligibility requirements for the grant because the biggest part of the expense is towards their product. It's paying for their compost.
And for what it's worth, like, we,
Not to say it's not really.
no, yeah, we have funded for-profit businesses in the past when we're, when they, when we think that their services are worthwhile. Like I think there's been, we've funded, for example, plastics recycling and composting businesses. Um, Yeah, they,
Add the
Well,
community.
this is a brand new campus, so I mean, they're doing a lot of new things
This
now, are
is-
they not? I mean, it seems to me like it's a good way to have them provide for some greening in the campus. When you drive past it, it's got this big space of openness that looks like it needs a lot of help.
So if you were to decrease the budget at all, what would you consider?
May I ask a question about the one that has to do with the bicycle stands? That's in
Yeah.
that threesome too.
well, let's, yeah, we'll get there next, but are we ready to move on from this budget? And, it might just end up being that, we tell them, you gotta take the $700 short, or,
Is that $700 number, what you've, is that number based on what we have to cut in
Well,
order
it's,
to make 75?
well, Commissioner Conklin, yeah, was saying that it's, we're short about, if we tell the other group that, that we're funding everything except for the rain barrels,
Okay,
then we're still about 1,400 something short.
okay.
So if we split that between the other two
Mhm.
groups, then that's $700.
We want to write it, we have a dry erase board in
I
that
have the
cupboard.
spreadsheet.
Oh, you have the spreadsheet open? Okay.
But if we're not, I don't know if it's fair to be like, we'll give you a 50-gallon rain barrel in place of your 500.
Yeah.
So I think,
From as somebody who collects thousands of gallons of rainwater, having
Okay.
10, 50 gallon rain barrels is a whole different conversation than.
so right
Or
now,
plastic bag. Yeah.
it would be, we could, if they all end up tied, we could ask if they could all take $1,224 less than they requested, is what the math is.
Okay.
All right. Does anybody have any strong preferences between doing that or picking a favorite or picking like, I guess it'd be a least favorite to cut?
I still think we should.
I think that makes a lot of sense. The bicycle one, in my mind, is an arbitrary cost. I'm not even sure it's a needed program,
Um,
but it was.
Okay, let's
What
move
about
on to that one.
Yeah.
Tia,
It didn't describe.
Flagstaff Shelter Services Bike Program application.
Is this for bike racks? $7,500 for bike racks.
No,
So. I didn't look at that all up. You all read it. It included bike racks.
and that was Commissioners
But that wasn't
Conklin,
the whole-
McCormick, and Metzger.
Bikes.
Yeah.
Too.
That's literally all it's for, is for bike racks.
I did bike racks last time around,
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
and I think this bike rack is more important than the disc golf one, if we think about it.
I mean,
Well, I mean,
You're
I don't know
probably right.
that.
So
There-
you're probably right, but this is a different year, the landscape
Yeah,
is
I know.
different, the competition is different, but yeah, let's bring up the budget and let's have a conversation about it.
So the goals,
Or to have a place for people to put their bikes. That's the goal.
I think it also includes, they partner with the Lefty Lucy, which I think, is that Adam Shimoni's bike place? To also, like, they provide bikes and then they help the folks that are clients of FSS learn how to take care of their bikes and do the maintenance, and then they provide a place for them to store bikes, which otherwise might be stolen if they don't have like a safe place to store them. So like giving
I
bikes
don't
to.
think that,
Right, go
I
ahead.
don't think this has to do with storing them. That has to do with having a bike rack near where they live. Bike racks on the new pad. It isn't a place where they're keeping them safe. I mean, it's obviously a place where you have to put your bikes, but there's nothing in there about storing them.
But if you are experiencing homelessness, you don't have a, like, that is where you store them. On the bike
Well,
rack.
And I was under the impression that, and again, I don't have a problem with providing bike racks for people who are living in a homeless shelter. It just seems to be an arbitrary amount of money. I mean, that's what we're talking about, is how much. The bike racks will cost 8,000. How is that defined?
So I guess if we were, well, they do have a quote from, I think probably the
Right, from a company that's gonna do it. That's right.
company who did the flyers or Flagstaff disc golfs. But if we were looking to reduce the cost, we know exactly how much those each rack cost.
This was one that, again, I think this is an extraordinarily valuable opportunity for people to have a place to live, provide free bikes for them. But there wasn't a statement about need. There wasn't a statement that we've seen some people losing their bikes. People have been stealing bikes. We have to have a place for them to be safely maintained. They're not kept in a location that's inside anything. It's a bike rack out in front of, from what I can tell, the homeless shelter. Is that correct? Or is it someplace in a secure area behind a fence?
It says it is. There will be a concrete pad poured on site with 10 bike racks on the pad.
Yeah.
Right
So
outside
you
the
don't have
shelter.
any right outside the shelter. So it's like in front. I'm not sure that that's a way to
says that-
secure them.
This is, it's their location on Route 66.
Yeah, it's the crown.
Right. Right. And the proprietor of this is a city council member. Is that correct?
Are you?
Ross? Wait,
No.
I didn't miss. Ross is not in the city council.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, she's the director of the shelter services.
Okay. I was
Um,
thinking of someone.
I mean, FSS has recently received a huge influx of money from Bezos Donation Foundation.
Oh, good.
I mean, that was like 6 or 8 months ago. They received like an unexpected $1 million just grant.
Whew.
Not to say that means they shouldn't get more city grant money, but if we're trying to think about if we were knocking off $1,200 from everyone's requested budget, like, I don't know if I'd be that worried about them coming up with the money.
Well, I'm not concerned about the Flagstaff Junior, the Junior Academy. Aren't they basis? I'm
No.
sure they have some financial funding
They're
too.
a charter school.
Commissioner Metzger,
And
they answered back to your question and said, no, they're not.
Yes.
Not affiliated with Basis at all.
Well, that's interesting because their website, they have a couple people writing their, couple people canoeing down a river and doing some really exciting things in that school. And I just seemed like it was connected to basis. Sorry about that.
They
They're an
did say they were
experiential outdoor school.
I see.
building a new campus right next to Basis.
They lost their.
That's right. That was why I thought that's why I thought it was basis, because their campus is so close to basis.
Well, in light of the fact that the budget for this project is over the $7,500 max, and they have this Kinney Construction estimate for the concrete and the bike racks, maybe maybe the other funding they have, which maybe the generous donations that can cover their 1,300 extra that they mentioned in this proposal, maybe they could cover a little bit more. So maybe just kidding.
Yeah.
Because they're already, by requesting the 7,500, they're already not requesting the full cost of the project. So they would likely move forward with it.
Is it feasible to make that kind of a commentary to the three that we came up with that they're in a freeway stretch and we'd like to give them each a substantial amount, but we're reducing it evenly to each group so that they feel they're being treated fairly? Can we
Yeah,
do that?
that's within our discretion to do.
That way everybody's treated fairly and everyone gets support.
Like that.
Although the Healthy Soils is asking for a little different amount of money.
I did notice that, and that thought did cross my mind too.
Healthy soils is also, I didn't score this one, but the commissioner who scored the lowest is not here to potentially like talk through it and see why her score was lower than others. Right, like there's not an opportunity for that score
Right.
to be changed on that end because she's not here tonight.
Yeah. Well, who scored the highest though? Wilkowski, is she with us? Can she talk about why she scored it so high?
Wolkowinski and,
Okay, excuse me. I apologize for mispronunciation.
that's okay. It's a lot of letters. And I based on meeting, being aligned with the carbon neutrality plan and meeting the overarching objectives and community partners, they hit all the marks, they did all the things, and it's a great project, so.
I think so too.
The only thing that made me go was all the transportation of the compost causing greenhouse gas emissions, but we're working on electrification.
What's
Not
the amount that we are, over again? I apologize for not having made a note of that. What are we
3,600.
trying? How much, excuse me, I'm sorry, Tia, how much is it?
3,672.
8,672?
3,672.
1,672?
Stopped it in the chat. Thank you. 3,000.
The first number keeps dropping off when you're talking to me and I can't hear it. I'm so sorry.
No, sorry. That's the hard part with.
And we're all eating snacks, so that's probably part of it.
Shame on you. I'm being good and not eating a thing, just drinking water. Okay, so again, is it 8,000? Is that what you're saying? We're over 8,000?
3.
3, thank you. Okay,
you
apologize.
bet.
I apologize.
No, that's okay.
I was just thinking if we evened them all out to the same 6,600 that Healthy Food Soils is asking for, we might be able to make the cut. Give them all the same amount of money.
It would still be just a little bit
That won't
short.
do it. Yeah, that won't do it.
So does anybody else have any thoughts at this point versus about cutting equally from all three versus
Yes.
in a way that we give the same amount of money to all three?
And the other thing I was going to ask about, and I apologize, Tia, that you did this already, since FJA is not a basis school, but it is a charter private school, which is fine. I mean, that means it's a public school. Are they though of a, how do I say this? They're putting, I kept thinking they're building a brand new school. They certainly have a budget in their science department for a lot of the program that they're asking money for. Are we supplanting monies that they already are using for something else? And I know supplanting is a federal language.
As well, because that was kind of one of the follow-up questions, and they said it wasn't like, that doesn't count as science programming for them, so it, like a community where it wouldn't come out of, and those kind of supplies wouldn't come out of a science budget, they said.
Huh, that's interesting.
All right, so are there any thoughts on the virtues of cutting each of the three projects on that, each of those three projects by roughly $1,000 each, or cutting the three in such a way that we give an equal amount of money to all three?
I like the idea of trying to fund them all on the same level, because at the end of the day, they came out with weirdly identical average scores. And I think all the projects have merit, so.
So do the math, figure out how to, what number we'd have to fund them at to.
Yeah,
For them
I
all
mean, that's a, because there's no like obvious thing to pull out of the budget on any of the three that would make it all work. I think that's a really equitable way to try to help all of them.
And the
I
math,
agree.
if I did it right, it comes out to $6,276 each.
Nice.
Which is
That
still the
works.
large.
That's perfect.
It is. It really is. They'll
Yeah.
be able to.
Are there, any other thoughts on that particular matter? Okay, so we are, I think we can almost wrap this up, but I do have one more thing I would like, I do have one more thing I would like to do before we take a vote on this. And that is, I would still like to go through each of the, I basically just want to go through each of the projects that we've gotten one by one. For the projects that are well above the funding level. I know that you didn't all, have a chance to read all of them, but I do want to just go through all of those and ask if there's any serious issues, any blocking concerns. And then I would also like to go through the ones that are, below the cutoff and see if there's any of those that anybody just really thinks that are worthwhile enough that we should reconsider them on this.
I'm just redoing my math. Okay, yeah. I think I did it wrong. You can I can do the math while you're chatting. That's totally
Okay.
fine.
So, yeah, this is the top
Yeah.
ranked one, and this is the one that got, they rescinded their application, so that's why that's up there.
I'm gonna expand this a little bit.
It's good.
More. And again, I know that, these will be, we have now looked at all of these. I just want to go through them and just check in about each of them so we all have that opportunity. All right, so reducing waste, creating value, sustainable shopping, and Sharon's adding. Is there anything anybody wants to say about that one?
Chair White, may I ask which, are you just going through on 1, 2, 3, 4
Yep.
grant applications? Okay. Just trying to find the right place to follow along with you.
Okay, so the amount for our tie is $5,995.98. With 1 cent left over.
Can we round up on that?
I can donate the extra nickel if.
Well, let's round up.
Okay.
$6,000?
Yeah, let's just round up. Well, we can cover it.
Okay. Awesome, thank you. All right, so reducing waste, creating values there. That was our highest scoring project. Does anybody have any notes or objections about that one? All right. Fat cats.
I'm so happy that project got funded.
With CATS being an acronym, FAT, CATs. Any notes, objections, et cetera, about that?
I'm really happy that I did not score this project, but I'm the one that gave the sustainability, I think, like months ago when Wendy was talking to me about this idea, and I was like, you should apply for a sustainability grant. I think it was already on her mind, but Wendy and Daryl are so amazing at CATS, and I think they are such a cool idea, and I'm so happy that it gets the funding to help it come to fruition.
I did score that one and I gave it a perfect score.
Nice.
It was a really well-written grant, hit all the targets, and
I don't know the project.
I'm excited
Give
about
me
the
like
project.
2
Yeah,
seconds.
mine was
Yeah.
very close to a perfect score as well.
I didn't read the grant, so I might be getting a little bit wrong, but she wants to start like a makerspace for
Oh.
folks that are using their services at the CATS bus to be able to like create or woodwork.
So with the pallets and all of that.
Yeah, and then like
Okay,
turn around
gotcha.
and like sell
Is it for a
stuff.
construction company or, I think it was a community partner.
Yeah.
So it's a relationship that already exists and there's all this wasted material. And so it hits a lot of different aspects of sustainability. Pretty cool.
They were at Earth Day and they had some of their prototypes of
Oh,
the product.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Thank
Well,
you.
Sounds like
We're happy
Here,
about
here,
that.
we're all volunteer.
All right, Flagstaff Family Food Centers Kitchen Composting Program. Does anybody have any thoughts or notes about that one?
Real excited for that one too.
Cool. Flagstaff Community Fridges. Does anybody have any notes about that?
I also didn't score that one, but she like came to my office hours, when we had the office hours and was not sure whether or not she thought it was a good idea. She was like really hesitant and I thought it was really great and encouraged her to apply. And so I'm really
Yeah.
glad she did.
I think that
I did,
and Commissioner Metzger.
I'm gonna say I did score that one and I did a little research into it and it has some tremendous success stories from Phoenix and Los Angeles for that particular model. So I was really excited about having Flagstaff have one too.
Yeah, I think, yeah, my understanding is they're still having trouble finding a venue. If, they're,
Speak to this.
okay.
Yeah,
oh, go
so
ahead.
we've been trying to help them find
Great.
locations, but we're gonna support.
Well,
Yeah.
Liminal shut down, so maybe she could take over. That's
Oh,
nice.
Liminal shut down. That's horrifying.
Sad.
I hadn't
What
heard.
shut down?
Liminal, which is the like sliding scale cafe on San Francisco. And they got a grant last year, I think, from us.
They
Oh,
did?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I kept,
Maybe they're on a hiatus, but it was my understanding that they closed.
Okay, good to know.
But now the space is open.
yeah, I also.
Well, the notion behind them were there's supposed to be outdoor refrigerators out in the community, not inside a building. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, so we are going to work with them to host them at one of our community gardens.
Oh, cool.
Okay, good.
Is that, and that'll be like solar powered, right?
Correct, and they have batteries.
Cool.
Yeah. So I looked into it a little
Don-
bit too.
Thank you,
And
Nicole.
Shanto Begay is going to do the artwork on it, so it'll have a cultural connection too. That'll be good.
That's,
Yeah.
I'm sad that Flagstaff Liminal.
Yeah.
Shut,
It's a bummer.
I'll have to look into that, but, well, such is life, I suppose. All right, moving on. Indian Bible College Community Garden, does anybody have any notes about that one? All right, seeing none, Peaceful Valley Permaculture, does anybody have any notes about that? Seems like a really interesting project as well.
Although I was like, since I help run our social media, I like came across a photo of them starting their project, like between when they applied and when we were grading it, and I was like, oh, they're gonna do it, so I thought that was great.
Yeah. Flagstaff Farm to Food Center.
I thought it was a great project. I love the idea. Yes.
Cool. Hospice Home Sustainable Garden Expansion.
I really like that one. I like the notion of the multi-generational aspect of it.
Bushmaster Park Community Fruit Orchard.
I already talked about that.
You did. Next, Lily of the Field Gardeners Market. That was one that I scored, but that actually is one that there was a substantial, a little bit of a scoring discrepancy, but it's still scored pretty high, and they're only asking for $2,400, which is not very much in the scheme of what we're doing. So next so I'm going to skip the ones that we already talked about that were on the border. So now we're on the ones that are below the cutoff. So at this point, if any of these projects are ones that you would really like us to reconsider, then that's what you should let us know. Reviving La Plaza, I'm going to mispronounce this, I know I am. Reviving La Plaza Vieja Park.
That was right.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I pronounced it right.
I liked this project, but I had some critiques of it, and I think that, like, I'd be happy to talk with some of the grant writers about how to improve it so that it gets funded next year. It's a great project. I think the proposal is just missing too much.
That makes sense. Thank you for that perspective. Yeah, I would, thank you for talking with the applicants as well.
I haven't.
Oh,
I
sorry,
haven't.
I missed,
I said I would be,
Got it.
I would be happy to.
those wires crossed my
Yeah.
brain. I apologize. Thank you for clarifying, but still, thanks for looking at that. Thanks for that perspective. Yeah, I hope that they do reapply next year.
I can't remember if they mentioned looking at the beautification and action grants at all, but in my follow-up email with them, I can make sure to encourage that as well, because that's actually sooner the next cycle than ours.
Okay, next is expand Art Ideas Festival to neighborhoods. So this one is basically, the one where we, the applicant from, what is it? Yeah, thank you, Bridge with Flagstaff to help fund their art festival. This was a little bit of a tough one for me too, but does anybody, and I have my own thoughts, but does anybody, think that this one is worth a revisit?
I thought it sounded really like, I would love to go to this event. It sounds really great, but with all of the other proposals on the table, I don't, like, I think it was a decent proposal, but
Yeah.
I don't think it, meets the overall objectives as well as many of the others.
Yeah, my personal thought on this is, again, the festival is very worthwhile, but my opinion on the purpose of neighborhood sustainability grants is to, is for, to have sort of, let small, individuals or smaller groups do things that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And, help, being a drop in the bucket of funding these, really large projects, that I don't really see that as being the purpose of this grant. So, I wish them the best, but it doesn't, I don't think it's a good fit for what our grants goals are. Any other thoughts on that?
I agree.
I actually have a question, and I can't believe this hasn't come up before. But like, all these comments are really helpful, and I feel like we should have these written down. Like, I can help you.
I'll need to
Yeah,
send
Just
or
because-
just to have on hand.
I mean, just because
Yeah.
we've been going after so many grants and having a really good understanding of why some of them weren't funded. I don't anticipate that all of them will come back and be like, hey, can you tell us why we weren't funded? But it would be really nice to have.
I mean, any of them can sit in on the meeting, right?
And the meeting
It's
is,
recorded.
and the meeting is
That's
also
true.
being recorded, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Share it
but
with everyone, but I mean.
No.
But that also- that does also mean that
No one's gonna watch it.
if some
What?
city
It's windy.
sustainability staff member or volunteer wanted to like watch the recording and write detailed notes about.
Yeah.
About all this. or-
Well, we could go back to
Yeah.
it.
I think, yeah,
We
maybe.
can go back if they,
It could be if they ask,
If
and
they
I
ask,
can get
yeah.
something together.
yeah. But yeah, just a mental note for us next year, like, that we can do that, just. I got a very nice letter from NREL
Oh, it's nice.
telling us why we didn't get our grant.
That's awesome.
One thing that, I have set up in my class that we do grants and they're reviewed externally. And I like ask them to write one comment about each grant that they review, like write 2 to 3 sentences about each one that will be shared, like when you do it.
Yeah.
The problem with that, and then sometimes is then we talk about them and people like wrote something mean that then they're gonna take back because they misinterpreted something and then the comment still gets shared. But overall, then every grant, and I'm not very good with the like mail merger technology, but the woman that does it over at North Country, just like, it's always in the same cell in an Excel spreadsheet, and then she just pulls them all.
Yeah.
And like, it takes her 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then there's a letter for everybody.
Yeah.
So like, if we wanted to be more constructive about it, I could
Love to
see if
have
maybe
a
they like meet with
template.
you
Yeah,
to
yeah.
share how they
I
do
know,
that.
yeah,
But then it is one more thing we all have
Yeah,
to do, like, we have
That's
to sit
the
down and write a
thing.
comment about every single grant,
yeah.
which like,
Yeah,
next year, we're gonna have more than 30 applications, right? Like, every year we'd have more and more. So I think it's also difficult, just time wise, to
It is.
ask that.
Yeah.
Everyone to spend 10 more minutes on every grant that they review.
I mean, we always say, we encourage you to apply again next year.
Yeah.
yeah, but it is like pretty broad. It's not, I don't think specific to each one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and doing this walkthrough is really helpful, and that's what
Good.
was just making me think of it, like, oh, it didn't align well, with me Valley Web.
And there, you know, you also have the tips for success in the
Yeah.
current application, and one more tip for success could be watch the Sustainability Commission's video from last year, like reviewing the grants, you know, like to just get an over broad sense of
That's a
the
really good,
comments.
Yeah.
and put that,
And
yeah,
that'll save a lot of someone's time.
yeah, I'm not trying to create more work. I'm also, well, especially for, you know, I am so excited that we're seeing so many new applicants.
Mhm.
That is
I-
incredible.
I reviewed a lot of
You
really
look
great
at
grants.
some of these applicants that didn't make it.
Yeah,
and
some of those broke my
their
heart.
previous
Yeah.
applicants, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm just super thrilled.
All right, well, okay. So, next up on the and so before we move on, any other thoughts about Creative Flagstaff's application? Okay. Next is co-op makerspace energy improvements. Does anybody have any, notes about those, or does anybody think that that warrants a revisit? That was, myself, Commissioner Boateng, and, Commissioner Walkowinski.
Can you scroll so I can see what application number it is? There we go, 7, okay, that way I can find it on my sheet.
Yeah, and this one is another one. It kind of breaks my heart that it's below the cutoff line, but I also, yeah, just one of those things. I think, I think the ones that we have currently are a good lineup, and this one just was a hair's breadth below the cut.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I agree. It's a great project, but it wasn't hitting full scores in many categories for me.
Yeah, Commissioner Boateng, is one, did score it substantially lower than, Commissioner Walkowinski or myself. And Commissioner Boateng unfortunately isn't here to discuss that, otherwise I probably would ask about it, but, you know, Commissioner Boateng, we would, the cutoff right now is 28.3, and, the highest of us was 28. So
That's
we
what
would-
I gave it. We gave it the same score.
Yeah, so we would all have to raise the, its score substantially for it to go above the cutoff. Any other thoughts or notes about that one? All right, next up is Be Well. I appreciate the pun, hand sanitizer. Any thoughts or notes about that?
If I could just go,
Yeah, I thought I remembered that.
I didn't get it.
That's too bad. Yeah. Just a really competitive field this year.
Mhm.
Um, All right. Okay, this is another one I'm gonna mispronounce. I apologize. Sego Lily Energy Efficient Front Window replacements. This, anybody?
I have to say I really liked that program, but the concern, I guess, for most people would have been that it's a fairly well funded on various other levels, and so it wasn't really a necessity to get a grant for them. That's all I could think of.
That's fair,
But may I make a suggestion too relative to applications?
of course.
And I don't know if it's an appropriate suggestion or if since I'm not there, you might all roll your eyes, which would be fine. I don't mind. It seemed to me that the applications do reference goals, but there is no description relative to problems that might be solved by the program. I mean, some people filtered it into their applications, such as the mindfulness, the problems of today. We're seeing so many people who are stressed and having struggles with society or rather with their lives because of the environmental problems that we have. But there's no specific question that says, what problem is this particular program going to solve? And I think there needs to be something that can give people substance that will help them build their goals and objectives from a descriptive problem. So that's just my thinking.
I think that's an excellent, I think that's an excellent idea, most years these grant applications, it's an ongoing evolutionary process. And I think most years we've tinkered with it at least a little bit. We tinkered it with substantially with it this last year, and hopefully next year, the tinkering will be less time intensive for whoever ends up doing that, but, you know, if whoever is doing that over the next year or two decides, you know, for whoever is doing that next year or two, and that you could be one of those people, I think that would be an excellent question, to add to the application. Thank you.
So in the application, they are asked to do a project narrative. And the description of that prompt is briefly describe the project and the positive impact it will have on the Flagstaff community. Include a statement and slash or evidence for why the project is needed. So maybe just rephrasing that question to align more with what you're saying, but I think it is in there, like, why do we need to do this?
But for perhaps more specific language, that was one of the things that I struggled with relative to the bike racks. There was no statement in there saying that our people who are struggling, you know, they've been donated a bicycle and yet we've lost some this year, or some are being
Yeah.
stolen. There's no description of a quote problem. Just, it would be so nice to have bike racks to keep them secure. And I think
Yeah.
that could be something in other areas.
Yeah, I think making these applications like as clear as possible to as many people as possible is, or, you know, making it as clear as possible to as many, you know, to as many people as possible, like what we're looking for. You know, I think that's a worthy goal. And again, it's something that I think is worth trying to improve on every year. So yeah, I think, either adding a question like that, or as Commissioner Conkel said, rephrasing one of the questions so that that expectation is clear. I think that's worthwhile. Again, I probably won't be here for very long or at all next year, but, whoever takes this over, I'd encourage them to make that tweak.
Thank you.
All right, next up, reshaping the flow, resilience, and creativity in addressing long-term, I think that says flood challenge. I'm gonna just assume that says challenges. Does anybody have any notes on this one, or does anybody think that it's worth a revisit?
This was one that had a lot of good idea connected to it, but did not have any specifics relative to how they would, quote, solve a problem. They didn't identify a problem. They just said, you know, we have these issues with floodplains and we need to have something to do with our sandbags, et cetera. But there was no real clear tie-in to what the problem is and what they would do to solve the problem and how it would eventually create a better situation. Again, there wasn't a lot of clarity.
Thank you, Commissioner Metzger. That's useful. Yeah, that's helpful feedback on that. Are there any other notes? All right, next is, financial literacy training. Are there any notes on that one, or does anybody think that that one is worth a revisit?
An interesting one to come through, definitely like, you know, a different take on resilience, and I think also speaks to some of the broader questions that were asked maybe in this round of applications.
What was the projects you, or like highlight?
Financial literacy training.
Yeah, it wasn't one of the ones that I scored, but
That's basically it.
I didn't score that one either.
I
So,
scored it.
Professor from NAU wanting to teach financial literacy courses. I think there were some.
His-
Community.
The thing,
Yes. Community members.
the weakness involved was he identified a problem, but he wasn't very clear about how he would solve it. And one of the notions that he had was that he would train high school teachers in how to teach, basically how to balance a budget. And they already know how to do that and they already try to teach it. Its struggle is that people who are in high school aren't generally interested in knowing that. It's when you're out of high school and you're struggling with life, that's when you need to know it. So that was the problem.
So it feels like a stretch.
Yeah. for
Like for the purpose of
resilience,
what we're,
yeah.
It,
can
yeah,
we tie it into the climate action plan? Like,
Right.
all right. Next up
I like it.
is,
Yeah, there's definitely a need for that,
Mhm.
but
misprepared, semicolon, climate change. This is another one I didn't score, so I can't really speak to it. Are there any notes on this one, or does anybody think that this one is worth a revisit?
I'll just say that I generously gave it 11 points.
Okay.
Is it,
Yours
is it like a beauty pageant?
It was poorly
read it.
written. It was, it's not a beauty pageant.
It's for.
It's about like, Little Miss Trouble and Little Miss Sunshine.
Oh,
It's like that kind of misprepared, I guess. But it's like, it almost sounded to me like someone had a really fun late night, and was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And they wrote it all down and submitted. Like, there's no evidence, there are typos, it's poorly written. There are partners mentioned, but none specifically, no relationships established. So it's kind of, yeah. And it also has some misstatements.
Okay.
And I have some quotes if you'd like them.
That's okay.
I want them after.
Any other notes on, misprepared climate change?
They're gonna curb climate change.
All right, moving on. Best Buddies Inclusion Project. Are there any, this was one that I scored, but, are there any notes on this one, or does anybody think that this one is worth a revisit?
Great, I hope they get money somewhere.
Yeah, honestly, my thoughts on this one are pretty similar to my thoughts on the one on Creative Flagstaff. It seems like a really worthwhile project, but, being a drop in the bucket of funding for these huge nonprofits is not what I really see as the goal of this particular grant. So yeah, I wish them the very best, as you do with all of our applicants, but just, doesn't feel like, just doesn't feel like a good, match for our goals, to me. Any other thoughts on that one? Do also want to note that part of their, since this is also functioning as note taking, I did also want to note that there were another one that part of their grant was, saying that they intended to work, with local high schools, but they hadn't reached out or obtained consent or interest from any local high schools, as of, at least as of when we got their, answers for questions. That is an important aspect of these as well. All right, one is another one that I did not score. It's informational sustainability signage. Does anybody have any notes about that one, or does anybody think that one's worth a revisit?
Oh, McCormick liked it.
I guess Commissioner McCormick did like it, but she's not here right now, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was saying that to myself. I apologize.
No, that's okay.
I thought I was on mute. Oops, sorry.
You wouldn't be the first.
Well, I didn't dislike it, but I have done, and we've probably all done this. We've all volunteered different places and made signs, etc. And it seemed to me like an awful lot of money to make a few signs that they're going to keep taking to different events when when most of us volunteer those signs anyway. That was what I thought.
Okay, thank you. Next up is climate talks for everyone. All right, does anybody have any notes on this one, or does anybody think that this one is worth a revisit?
I did not review that.
Again, my thoughts on this one is, similar to what I said about videos earlier. It seems like an interesting project, but there's so much information out there about climate change already. And, the people who are likely, in my opinion, the people who are likely to go to such talks are people who are likely to already be informed and enthusiastic about it and engaged. So, I had a hard time seeing like what the sort of plus up on that is above what's, above the information that's already available. Um, That's just my opinion, but, again, I, wish them well and encourage them to apply again. And, hope that their project can go forward. Car free first Friday. Does anybody have any notes or, on this one, or does anybody think that this one is worth a revisit?
Looks like a good idea from the title only.
Yeah.
I didn't read it.
It's tied into the first Friday art walk,
Yeah.
like closing down a block, and it sounds great, it
Great.
sounds fun, but it's missing a lot of key arguments that it would need to be more strongly considered.
Yeah, I agree. And, they answered some questions and I did raise their score from that a little bit, but even with that, more than half of the budget is basically just, to use as handouts to businesses in compensation for what they would perceive as lost business, which in my, I'm not saying that's not a worthwhile thing to try to do, but in my opinion, that's not an appropriate use of sustainability grant funds. Also, a lot of their, a big chunk of the rest of the funds was to go to rentals of equipment that would basically only be used for that one day,
Yeah. barricades
which,
and stuff.
again, doesn't seem to me as an efficient use of funds. Some of it's fine, like they were, going to poll, local businesses to see what their thoughts on this were, which is, great. I think that's a good idea. That seems like it to me like a more appropriate thing to do before the grant rather than like have funded by the grant. But, again, I wish them well. I hope they can pull their project off. It'd be a fun addition to the first Friday, and it's always good to sort of help demonstrate to people that we can in fact make do with fewer cars. That's just how things are lying right now to me. Um, any further thoughts or comments about that one? All right. Next up, developing family protective factors in Flagstaff. Are there any notes or, on this one, or does anybody think that this one is worth a revisit? Yeah. Again, my notes on this one, a lot of it is for, it's basically the proposal for funds for this one is basically an even split between, incentives to participants and the applicant paying themselves for their time. And, as a historical note, like we actually used to forbid any of this grant money to go towards salaries. And there's pros and cons to that. We've since changed that, but even so, this applicant, they were basically proposing to pay themselves $90 an hour, which I think is, I'm okay with. It's to me a little bit high for what our grant is. But again, I wish them well, and I hope that they, it sounds like in many respects could be a worthwhile project, and I wish them good luck with it.
You want to know, we're running out of time and I
Right.
think we do have a to and from and we need to vote for them too, so.
Thank you. Community cats, food/music for homeless. This is another one that I did not review, but are there any notes or on this one, or does anybody think that this one is worth a revisit?
It's not worth revisiting, and it's confusing about the notion of collecting cats and then feeding the homeless. It was a bizarre application, just as a second note.
All right. And last one is Global Green New Deal. Does anybody have any nuance on that, or does anybody think that this one is worth a revisit? All right, well, so I believe so we've been through them all, and I don't think that there are any, changes in rankings. Other than the ones, other than the one that we,
Up to date. Okay.
what is that?
Just ensuring everything was up to
Oh,
date.
yeah. Yeah, so other than, the increased score for Bushmaster Community Fruit Orchard, I don't believe there are any other changes in rankings. And I believe, if I'm reading the room right, I believe the consensus at this point is to fully fund all projects through Lily of the Field Gardeners Market at their full requested funds, and to offer Flagstaff Shelter Services Bike Program, Flagstaff Junior Academy Forest Garden 4A, and Healthy Soils and Thriving Gardens Project, $6,000 each. Can we have a motion for that?
I will motion to fund all projects above that line. That information.
I second the motion.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Conkle. We have a second from, I guess now Vice Chair Walkowinski.
Thanks for reminding me.
I
He
forgot
said
it.
that with a lot of happiness, didn't he? Wasn't he happy to say that?
A little bit, yeah. Sad to leave, but glad the commission is in good hands. All right, so there's a motion on the table. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll bring the motion to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
I,
All opposed, please say no. All right, the motion passes. It's worth a little celebration. Huzzah. Thank you, everyone. Again, I know that these grants are a lot of work for everyone involved, but they really do add a lot to our community. It's really wonderful to see what people do with them. Some of the projects have done absolutely amazing things, and I have every reason to think that the projects currently funded will do amazing things as well. For all projects that for all applicants that didn't make the cut, it's always heartbreaking to not be able to fund everyone. Lots of worthy projects all the way across the board here. So those projects, I wish you the very best. I hope that you can find funding elsewhere. And if you're still looking for funding next year, I encourage you to reapply. All right, so
Quick question. I just wanted to ask, if, because I haven't gotten confirmation when we want to do the presentations from last year's. Do we want to do that? I was thinking probably not January. I think that's too soon, actually. It's still within the year of almost of funding. So like February or March meeting, if we're trying to do it in one meeting. Does anyone have a preference between the two? And March might be, I don't know, when spring breaks are for everyone. It would be the fourth Thursday as usual, so
it's after spring break.
okay. So
I think, yeah.
okay.
Pretty neutral too at this point. I don't really know. March tends to be a busy month for me, but I don't know enough to say more than that. You know.
And Commissioner Metzger, any preference between having the presentations from last year's grant recipients in our February or our March commission meeting?
I don't have a preference on either one. I'll be happy to be at both those meetings.
Okay, thank you. Maybe towards February then.
All right.
February would be better for me.
Okay. You have everything you need to get? All right. So home stretch, we have 2 minutes left. Might go 30 seconds over. Okay, thanks. To and from. So this is where commissioners can speak about any events or events or announcements that they have coming up over the next month. And Commissioner Wolkowinski, you got something?
Yes, so I went to the city council meeting on Tuesday this week, and there were a group of us that showed up in support of the carbon neutrality plan as it currently exists. And the reason for that was in response to another group's showing and presentation of, or proposal for changing the climate plan, the climate action, or the carbon neutrality plan in ways that will really hamstring its effectiveness. They want to take out, remove funding and put it all towards mitigation. What's the group? The group is called Flagstaff First, and they have a really interesting website, and they think that their overall opinion is that Flagstaff is a drop in the bucket of the problem, and that for us to spend this kind of local money on carbon neutrality plan is futile. And so we are also going to show up in support of the carbon neutrality plan at the city council meeting on December 12th. And I'm going to be speaking, I decided, at that meeting, and it occurred to me this morning that it might be more impactful if I showed up and spoke on behalf of the Sustainability Commission. And I don't know, what that entails, what the possibility is. I will be speaking as a member of the community. And so, if I could speak, if there's, I don't know if we need to vote on it, if there's enough time.
So there are a couple, so I would encourage I'd encourage you and everyone else to go to that city council meeting and speak their minds about that. Nicole can speak to the, if I'm right or wrong about any of this. In order for you to speak on behalf of the Sustainability Commission, you basically have to read a pre-prepared statement that was voted on by us. I don't believe that we can do that now because we're not allowed to vote on anything that was not on the agenda due to Arizona's open meeting laws.
Great.
So, yeah, and just a few more details on that, and happy to forward any information to the commission. But in September, Flagstaff First submitted a petition to the city council to ask them to incorporate drought, flood protection, and forest health initiatives. So shifting away from mitigation into resiliency. And so there's no scheduled date as of yet when I am going to be bringing. So let me back up. In October, so the city's required to hear a petition within 30 days of it being submitted to the city clerk's office. I was out of town when that 30-day mark was going to occur. And so they did want that petition to go forward. Jenny Neiman spoke at council, and I can send the link to that meeting, see some of the dialogue or hear some of the dialogue. It was approved 4-3 by the council to move it onto a regular agenda for further discussion. And that date is predicated by, it is predicated by staff getting it on the agenda. We have a lot going on right now, so unless I am asked by the city manager or the mayor to accelerate that, I'm thinking probably sometime in April or May is when I will be bringing not only sustainability, but water services, wildland fire to the council meeting to have a very in-depth conversation. So with all that said, if the commission wants to write a letter to the council, there is plenty of time.
Fantastic.
The 12th of December is going to be a public comment period. So the council will not be able to have back and forth with the community members. So when this is scheduled for an actual date, and again, to be determined, I met with the mayor yesterday. And then I'm gonna be meeting with the city manager on it. I will let the commission know, but then my recommendation is that this gets on the next agenda for the commission to discuss. And then that creates that mechanism if the commission would like to submit.
Is there an opportunity if it's on the next agenda for you to send like information for us to read about it beforehand to be
Absolutely.
Because I don't, this is the first time hearing about this, but based on the logo,
Yes, I know, I
it's,
know.
I'm not very impressed.
May I ask a question? Is
Of
this
course,
Flagstaff,
of course. Go ahead.
is this Flagstaff First Group, the group that was behind the vote towards the hospital as well? They the ones that ginned that
No,
up?
no, and unfortunately, those names are very similar. But the answer is no. This is a different group of community members that live within and outside of the city.
Well, I just checked their website and it sounded like they were beating the same drum. That's why I asked. Their commentary is more community input regarding directions of the city and community, et cetera. So I thought that was part of it. That's why I asked. Never mind.
Hospital group was the-
Never mind.
Right. Wait.
So I heard we're probably gonna put it on the January agenda.
I think that's a good idea.
All right, well, I think, so we're over time and I think we have all the information on this item that is going to be useful for us for the next month anyway.
Yeah, thank you for the conversation.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that to all of our attention. Is there any other to and from? Seeing none, are there any requests for future agenda items? All right, well,
This is not related to agenda items. I was thinking when we like give the awards to the list for this time, could we request that they like, as the projects are ongoing, share photos with you that you could put on like your social media? You know, like, to be like, congratulations, like also,
Yes.
we would love to see your photos and we could feature.
I love that.
And we could tag you in the.
That's a great idea.
Because
Or like also,
I
hi, you're a
find that
winner. Can you
people-
please share that you won this grant publicly?
Share on social
Or like
media.
tag us.
You know,
Yeah.
that's a reasonable thing to do,
Yeah.
to ask in
Yeah.
return.
Are you whispering? I can't hear you.
No, just to myself.
Oh.
Nicole, is this something we would have to vote on, or is this something we can kind of have to do?
I'm sorry, I was preoccupied with looking at this.
Oh. So,
There's a plaque with your name on it.
so,
The bike racks.
Oh, yay.
so.
Amazing.
Yeah, so Commissioner Conkle was saying that we should request of awardee, of grant awardees that they take pictures and do, that they take pictures and otherwise send us periodic updates and.
Oh, yeah, I
and
love that.
So that we can, and also so that we can like put their accomplishments on, or so that the Sustainability Commission or Division can put their accomplishment on their social media, sorry, words. Is that something we should vote on, or is that something that you can just do?
We can just do that.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love the idea. Thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
Is there any other to and from or future agenda item requests before we adjourn?
I think so.
All right, well,
I'm impressed.
this meeting is officially adjourned. Again, thank you everyone for your commitments of time and knowledge and skill. And everyone have a lovely holiday.
Happy
And,
Happy holidays.
yeah, it's, in case I don't see you all, I may be back for January if they don't hire a new commissioner, but if I'm not, it's been an honor and, y'all have a great next year.
I hope to see you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hope to see you too.
Yes. I also did. I was in a public comment at every meeting.
Yeah.
It's just gonna come in to give a public comment.
Yeah.
Knowing that we never have them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we still recording?
And again, thank you for letting me use your computer.
Yes, of course. Oh, I think once I leave, it'll.
So they changed their website since Tuesday.
Okay, it's gone.